I'm one of these entrepreneurs with shiny object syndrome. So I'm like an unbridled horse that wants to run 100 miles an hour. In the contract, we said things like, what value does the company have to be before any partner could force it to sell? What would happen if one of us dies? And we covered those types of basis. And I sat with her. I said, Mom, you and I are always going to put family first, friendship first. But let's have this in writing so we're professional about it and clear about it. And we did. And it was one of the best things we did. How many people have had a bad partner? And a bad partner it's a terrible, terrible situation. It's hard to get out of it. It's hard to fight through it. It makes your days miserable. So we were really, really cautious about giving out equity. Now,
It's a
I was making
lot.
about 350,000, 360 a year at age 25, 26. No, I had my dream car. I was on my way, but I did not like what I did, Jerome. I just didn't like it. And I needed to be my own person.
There's a difference between a dream chaser and a dream catcher. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dreamcatchers podcast. I'm your host, Jerome, and I will tell you that this is going to be a show like none other today. I've got my friend Rich Walker in. He's down in Texas. And man, when I met this guy, I started rethinking the way that we talk about exits. He's totally committed to keeping his business, and he's been on a really interesting and wild journey. And so, on this episode, we're going to do an unpacking of that journey and dig into why he's committed to holding on to the business. So, with that said, Rich, welcome to the Dreamcatchers podcast.
Jerome, my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me today.
Man, it's my pleasure. And I think the listeners are going to say it's their pleasure at the end. We do things a little unconventional here, Rich. And so we do the get to know, find out more at the beginning. So if people want to learn more about you and your company, how should they reach out?
So my company is called Quik. Our website is Quik Forms, and you can spell it Quik or Quick forms.com, and you'll find us. I'm the Quik Forms CEO on LinkedIn. So that's another way to find me and connect with me.
Wow. He's made it easy. He owns all the misspellings. All don't know what's going on. And he's done it the way that I think is on the website, which is with no C, all only a K. So, Rich, you've been doing this thing for a little while. How long have you been I think you're the founder too, right?
I'm a co-founder. Yes.
Okay.
We started this in 2002. Now, technically, it was started in 1999 when we were doing consulting, but I became a financial advisor, found this product need, and then we formed like not the LLC, we formed the S corporation in 2002. So that's what my official start date is 2002. Long time.
All right. And so you were a financial advisor and then you started this, or you started this and then you became a financial advisor, then you came back to it?
Well, the real story is I was a technologist in the 90s. I worked at Arthur Andersen. I did big system consulting. I joined my partner in Efficient Technology Inc., which is the actual name of my company. We do business as Quik. And we were helping people be more efficient with the tools they already had, like Microsoft products. I got tired of tech and said, you know what? I'm going to go back to my degree in finance. I'm going to become a financial advisor. And I wanted to help people achieve their personal goals, which I love helping people achieve their goals. But when I became an advisor and I realized how hard it was to earn somebody's trust and respect and rapport to be able to take their money and invest it with them, the reward of doing that was I got to handwrite their paper forms for them. And I thought, man, Jerome, I'm going to make $4 an hour when I used to charge 200 an hour as a consultant. And I'm like, this is dumb. I'm not filling out paperwork for a living. So I just built software that would fill out forms for me. I didn't think anything of it, frankly. In fact, I had built like 5 other technologies for my practice, but the forms is what people wanted. They kept saying, Rich, how'd you do this clean paperwork in 2001? I'm like, I just built this thing. They're like, give it to me. But it was a Microsoft Excel hack. I mean, it was the simplest little thing. And everybody's like, no, I need that. I really hate filling out forms. And I said no for 6 months. And finally, I went back to my tech partner and said, hey, we have something here. Maybe we should build a product. By the way, I want to reveal the tech partner is my mom. She's also a technologist. And I went to her and said, maybe we should just build something here. And so we did. And we did our first install on February 11, 2002. We gave it to a financial advisor and her team. She had a full-time person, 40 hours a week, handwriting forms, who called us up 2 weeks after they got our product, practically in tears, saying, oh my gosh, you're going to change my life because now I only fill out forms for 4 hours a week. So
Game changer.
Yeah, so we knew we had something and we just went headlong into it and started working on it. And we did all of the dumb things, which I'm sure you'll want to talk about.
So, I don't think they're dumb things in the beginning because you're learning. And I mean, if you keep doing them, then yeah,
Well,
they
yeah.
become dumb. But in the beginning, you've got this knowledge debt that you got to pay down either by paying other people or through your mistakes, errors, and uh, time, blood, sweat, tears, depending on what you're doing. So you understood the business because you had the problem. And I think that's what most of us do. We go out and we're best able to solve a problem for the people who have the same problem we have. And
Yeah.
so between you, well, this is a family dynamic that's really interesting because usually if it's going like mom, son, or daughter, or dad, son, or daughter, the parent started it and they're passing it down. But you all started on this journey together. How did y'all work out the workplace dynamics? Because that seems like it could be tough in the beginning.
It was awkward in certain ways, but one of the things we did is we said, let's divide up the responsibilities. So I was in charge of sales and product design, but my mom was in charge of administration and finance and customer service. So finance controlled whether I could invest more in product or sales, right? And so we had this balance, this check and balance. We eventually had a third partner come on and we kind of had three-way split of the duties. But that is how we kept this in check to make sure we weren't running off. Now, look, I'm one of these entrepreneurs with shiny object syndrome. So I'm like an unbridled horse that wants to run 100 miles an hour. And my mom was holding on to the reins and slowing me down and keeping me focused and on track, which was a really good dynamic for us. The other thing that was awkward, though, is I couldn't call her mom. So learning how to say my mom's actual name to her in front of others was really hard. It was really awkward for a long time. She has a different last name than I, so it was very easy for us to not share that we're a mother-son relationship. We just wanted to be professionals. We wanted to be seen bigger than who we were. And to be honest, the reason we started the business together is because we knew we had this really great dynamic of getting people to trust us, serving our customers with integrity and transparency, and being able to solve problems like nobody we knew. So we felt like it didn't even matter what the product would be. If we applied those skills and capabilities that work between us, we would be successful no matter what.
So your mom just kept being mom because I mean that's what they seem to be doing with little boys who are just running off to do the next thing, right? He's got all the energy in the world, and I'm just trying to keep up and keep him out of trouble or keep him from hurting himself. Okay, so what I find really fascinating about what you've shared so far is just that many of us don't have division of labor when we go into that first exit, which is chief everything officer. There is everybody's doing everything, and if something doesn't get done, it's everybody's fault. But you were able to, from what you just shared, clean it up and just get it nice and neat. And you got this, I got that. And by doing that, I guess you keep from stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah. So look, I'll tell you one other thing, because I had started other businesses before this and I had learned some things. So one of the things my mom and I did before we even started, we wrote a contract. We actually had a contract with each other. And in the contract, we said things like, what value does the company have to be before any partner could force it to sell? What would happen if one of us dies? And we covered those types of basis. And I sat with her. I said, Mom, you and I are always going to put family first, friendship first. But let's have this in writing so we're professional about it and clear about it. And we did. And it was one of the best things we did. So then, second, yeah, when we said, let's divide and conquer, you do customer service and you do finance, I'm going to do product development, I'm going to work on sales, we could then collaborate on the things we needed to collaborate on. And it wasn't one of us saying, oh, you're doing that wrong or the other wrong. I mean, here's the irony, Jerome. I have the degree in finance. My mom doesn't, but she was doing the numbers. And for me, that was a great way to do it because she was very good at the bookkeeping and the management of it. But then I had the ability to have oversight to it because I had that background. And she was really excellent at customer service. I was really good at building the software. She's good at the software too. But I don't know. I think it just made it easier for us to communicate about who had what responsibility. And what I didn't say so clearly in this conversation is that that responsibility was final say. Like I had the final say on what the product would be. She could have input. She could hear it from customers and say, hey, there's a feature people want. But because it was my ownership of product, I had the final say. It was up to me to make the decision. We didn't run a democracy, but she had final decision on customer service protocols or the finance, et cetera. So it's a way of giving respect to the other people on your team. I mean, even to this day, I have another partner who doesn't have as much ownership as I do, but I treat him like the equal partner that he is. And I say, you make these decisions. I'm not going to step on your toes. I'm going to give you input. I'm going to give you ideas, but it's your responsibility. And it does something inherent, which I didn't realize at the time. It's a form of delegation, and it's worked really well to do that.
Yeah. I've heard people talk about being able to decide what the outcome is, but not deciding how you got there. Because if you try to do both, then the person doesn't really feel like they have any ownership or really have a voice. They're just taking orders and executing against commands that are being given to them. And you're actually taking advantage of their intellectual horsepower. So, did you guys sell a piece to the person, the next partner, or did mom exit? Like, how'd you get to the place where there's another partner in the game?
Blood, sweat, and tears were bootstrapped, and the partner who came on earned his way in. And like the first partner came in, and we bought him out later, and we have a second partner who came in, both of which came in and worked really hard for little or nothing for a period of time. So they literally invested with their blood, sweat, and tears. But it also gave us a chance to build trust. I mean, these were outsiders. So it allowed us to build trust over a period of time and see their commitment and see their desire and their passion and to make sure we're truly good partners. I mean, how many people have had a bad partner? And a bad partner it's a terrible, terrible situation. It's hard to get out of it. It's hard to fight through it. It makes your days miserable. So we were really, really cautious about giving out equity. In fact, I don't give out equity to my employees. And one of the main reasons I don't do it, and I'm upfront with them about this, is because I don't have the plan to go public or exit, and therefore their equity is not worth anything until that happens. And meanwhile, that equity is a liability. If we got to put money in the company, they got to pony up money. If we have a tax liability, they have a tax liability. And believe me, Jerome, we've had tax liabilities that we didn't collect money out of the company to pay. We had to pay out of our own pockets as owners. And I don't want to put that burden on employees. So I've explained that to them and they're fine with it, with a promise that if we ever did sell, I would take care of them. But I mean, that's just how we've looked at it. So yeah, it was, they had to earn their way in.
Well, it sounds like everything's gone perfect, Rich. I
Oh,
mean,
sure. Yeah.
I mean, why do people say it's so hard to grow and scale a company? Like, I mean, what are they complaining about?
Yeah. Can I tell you my story? Um, I left a multi six-figure income at age 26 to start this business. And for the first 4 years of this business, I made an income of $1,000 per month, 12,000 a year. You can look at my social security statements. That's what it says. My rent was more than $1,000 a month. Just my rent. I mean, my expenses were like 2,500, 3,500 a month, and I'm making $1,000 a month. And guess what? In year five, I doubled my income to $2,000 a month.
Woohoo!
Whew, yeah, it was so hard. It was so hard. I mean, part of my story as an entrepreneur is for 4 years straight, if I paid my rent on the first of the month, I did not know how I would pay rent the next first of the month. And there were days on the 30th, I still didn't know how I was going to have enough money to pay rent. And you know what? That never stressed me out. I never missed rent. I was never late by even a day. And I always had the money if I needed it. I believed that it would happen. I believed I'd find ways to make it happen. Oh, sometimes it was credit cards. Sometimes it was a customer came through at the last minute. Sometimes it was a gift for inheritance. I mean, it was a number of things. But yeah, we just kept fighting and fighting. So bootstrapping was really hard because I had very little resources to start with. My mom thankfully had better resources, so she didn't suffer. But myself, man, it was grueling.
So why would you do that? Because I mean, I suspect that's more money than you ever thought you would make. I mean, multiple six figures in your 20s, in the 90s
Yeah.
is
No,
It's a
I was making
lot.
about 350,000, 360 a year at age 25, 26. No, I had my dream car. I was on my way, but I did not like what I did, Jerome. I just didn't like it. And I needed to be my own person. Working for others, I, I just didn't care for it. I didn't like company politics. I could see how I was good at it. I could see my way to the top of any company, but I didn't enjoy it. And I said, I I started my first business when I was 12. And I was so amazed at how people will give you money for things they want that you produce or can give them at a reasonable price. And I love that. I love business models. So I said, you know what? I have to have my own thing. And being a financial planner was it. I was going to be a financial planner, and that was going to be my business. But the software spoke to me so much more. I felt like I could help way more people through the software than I could directly as a financial planner. Um, Plus, I felt like I had a guilt about being a financial planner. I felt like if I'm telling you to save more money, I'm actually telling you to save more money plus my fee. I mean, it's already hard enough to save money, but then you have to pay even more to me to help you do that. And I know it's wrong. It's not the right way to look at it. But for me, I had this guilt about it. But with software, it costs this. It's going to save you X. It's worth it. Pay it. No big deal. I have no problem charging for the software. But yeah, why do I do it? I mean, to me, life is about potential. Life is about living up to that potential. And underlying all this, which I didn't realize until about year 8 or 9 in my company, that the real reason I'm doing all this is because I want to empower myself to do my best work. And so the ethos of my company is to empower others to do their best work, whether that's my team, my vendors and partners, or my customers with the products and services they're getting. It's always about how am I empowering you to do your best work? Because that was my frustration working at Arthur Andersen. I felt like I was 50% utilized. I felt like no matter what good ideas I came up with, I couldn't execute on them. And the same thing with any other company I worked at. I just didn't feel like I was giving everything I could and getting what I should from it. So that's what was driving me. I just felt like, man, I need to live up to my potential and see what I'm capable of. And the money just didn't follow right away.
So did you have an exit plan? Because going from 350 to zero, I mean, that's tough. I mean, that's
Yeah.
uh,
No,
that's 30,000 a month in
yeah.
change.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was usually 35 to 40,000 a month. And now I go to nothing. So the thing is, I'd been poor before. Okay. You want self-fulfilling prophecy? I'm driving down the road from whatever event, going home in my really nice car, which I loved. And I said to myself, wow, I need to be poor again. I don't appreciate this like I used to. I need to feel the hunger. I literally said that to myself. And it was because I wasn't happy with the job. I'm making tons of money. It was really easy to make money. And I'm like, this is not it. And so that's what happened then, is I became super poor again. And I understand how to be poor. I know how to be poor really well, unfortunately, or fortunately. Um, but yeah, I forgot what you asked. Um,
Well, how'd you do it? Right? Because I mean, most people can't fathom taking a step backwards, and it's air quotes around backwards, but they can't fathom the idea that they would give up 30,000 a month for 1,000 a month on this
no.
idea that might. I mean, at this point, you didn't even say that you felt like there was real income potential with the software.
Well, I did
So
actually. There's no business I've started that I didn't think I could become a millionaire overnight with. Now, I'm always wrong about that, but I've always seen the potential for it. I mean, think about this. We are automating forms. How many companies work off of paper forms at some capacity? Well, Adobe did a study years ago that said 84 to 86% of the world's organizations, public, nonprofit, everybody, relies on forms. So there's unlimited potential for how we can automate forms. And in our world, my mom and I had a simple premise. We will start this business. We will scale up to 1,000 users, which shouldn't be very hard for software. We'll charge 150 a year. So that's 150,000 in revenue. We'll take 50,000 each as income and 50,000 to run the company. We'll have a business. That was our simple premise in year one. In year one, we signed up six, count them, six users.
you were rich.
Oh my gosh, six. And we were like, wait a minute, we need a website, we need a database, we need things. So we started investing in infrastructure. In year two, I think we got up to like 76 users. In year three, I think we got to 150 to 200, and we're like, wow, this is so much harder than we thought. And there's a lot of reasons it was hard, but we also then pivoted a little bit and we started taking the core of our product out and selling it as a component. And our first sale was to Mass Mutual with 5,000 users. Boom. Now we're making 50,000, 60,000 a year from this one customer. I'm like, wow, this is how we should sell. This is what we should do. So we started changing our trajectory, and it turned out to be really, really hard to do enterprise sales, and they take a long time to work out. But that's how we started building. But yeah, this is why I say we did everything wrong, because we took on no capital to help facilitate our growth. We couldn't hire the right people because we had no capital. We suffered by ourselves while we paid others. We worked really, really hard to build up these sales, and we chose an impossible market and product. And I don't want to go too deep into why, but there was only one competitor in our space, and that should tell you something. It's a really, really hard space to be in. So we were always chasing the competitor. They were beating us every single time. For the first 10 years of business, they could always just say, well, we have more than they have, so why work with them? And they weren't wrong. We had better tech, they had better content, more forms than we had. But by year 10, we had the same quantity of forms and we started beating them. So yeah, I mean, we did the hard thing. And I always believed that this could be $1 billion company because it's forms, for crying out loud. Everybody hates forms and has to fill them out. So we could solve that problem.
So clear problem, clear on who has the problem, getting in front of those folks, and even a clear value proposition.
Yeah,
But it was still hard.
it was still hard. People don't believe things. You could show them, hey, at $20 an hour labor, we're going to save you 15,000 a year. So you should pay us 300 a year. And they're like, no. Or the other funny thing, we had a customer call us and say, hey, you have 48 out of the 50 forms that I need to use. You're missing 2 forms. I cannot use your product. I said, let me get this straight. We're offering you a 96% solution, and that's not good enough. That's correct. I want my money back. Wow. Why would customers think like that? And I don't have the answer for that. But yeah, it was, Jerome, it was just plain hard. There was a lot of things we had to learn along the way. Um, and we've come a long way. We're doing really well now. So I love that we're here now.
Well, so I heard Andy Frisella say he made like $57,000 in the first 10 years of what is now First Form. What if I'm counting up like the first 5 years, I don't think you had $60,000 in revenue. So were you married? Like, was it just you and mom and you're just figuring it out? How do you stomach it for that long? Because there's so many people who would say, oh, this isn't working. Like
Yeah,
I could
right.
just go get a job, you know?
So that's funny. The thing that gave me confidence to keep going was the fact that I knew I could go get a job. Like I could turn around at any moment and go get a 6-figure job within 60 days. There was no doubt in my mind I could do that. And that was the safety net in my head. But no, I was not married, no mortgage, no car payment. I was just living, trying to live as frugal as I could and make it happen. And I mean, look, I wasn't devoid of experiences. I was able to borrow a few $1,000s and go on a trip to Portugal and Spain and get out of the country for 2 weeks and do some fun things. I had to have some sanity. But yeah, I listened to what people had told me all along in my life of Rich, start your business when you're young before you have obligations and responsibilities, because that's going to be easier than later. It's so true. I have 3 little kids, I have a house, I have cars, I have obligations. I would not want to start a business right now. So I'm grateful that I took those punches back then when I was maybe too ignorant to know what I was getting myself into and just stomach through it, like you said. But I mean, look, entrepreneurs have to ask themselves some serious questions about running the marathon. What pain are you willing to suffer through or accept? And what is going to make you hurt and quit? I mean, honestly, I think failure is the word quit. Not that you did a mistake. You learn from a mistake. You do it better next time. Quitting is what failure is. So I just chose never to quit and to keep pushing forward. And I had some years better than others, and every year got better. And to be honest, I met my wife. We started dating in late 2008. So that's what, 6 years into my business. And every year since I met her, my life and my income has gone up. And then when I had a child, not only did I work fewer hours, I went from working 80-hour weeks to 35-hour weeks. My life got better. My income kept going up. And I'm like, why didn't I get married sooner? And why didn't I have kids sooner? Because those were the catalysts that drove me to make better decisions in my business.
He who finds a wife finds a good thing. Um, I'm just amazed. And I feel like you're going to break my heart with this answer to this question. So you had your dream car. You said that while you had your job. Did you get
Yeah.
to keep it the whole time?
Oh, no, no. I'm going to tell you the story. So when I started financial planning, I joined my mentor in his business, and he was awesome to tell me we're going to start as equal partners on day one. I'm going to split my revenue with you 50-50 right now. And that way you have an income to join me in my business and buy me out in the next 5 years or something. And we had an agreement that if we quit doing business together within 2 years, I would pay him back the money that I had taken from the business essentially. So when I came up with the software, we were also coming to a point in our relationship, about a year into our relationship, where things were not working the way we originally thought. And I had said, hey, I think I should shift what I'm doing and how we work together. And his response was, well, I think we should just quit working together. And I was like, whoa, I hadn't thought about that.
Hey guys, as you might know, a very small percentage of the people who actually listen to this podcast are subscribers. So do us a favor, subscribe. In fact, we did some analytics and we found out that only 25% of the people who listen are subscribers. And our goal is to get that to about 75% over the next 3 months. So do us a favor, hit the subscribe button so you get notified when our new episodes come. We plan to bring immense value to you guys going forward as we continue to improve the content that we create at Dreamcatchers. Your dreams should be real. Let's get back to the show.
And over about a month or two, we came to that conclusion that, yeah, we should part ways and I should just focus on the software. Well, he kind of felt like the software should be partly his. He did nothing for the software. He had no input. He wouldn't even use it. And so I was like, why should it be yours? Just because he understood it and he wanted to be partners with me. And I was like, no, no. So I had to buy out what I owed him. So I cashed out my 401k and I sold the car to get every last dime I could to pay him what I owed him. And I essentially walked away owing him nothing. But Jerome, I had nothing. I had maybe $1,000 left to my name. That's it. And some of the ways in which my mom and I survived is we did consulting on the side. She originally started a consulting company, and so we would do consulting gigs, Microsoft Excel projects, whatever, to make a few $1,000s just to push enough money into the company to pay that $1,000 a month salary to keep us going. It was crazy.
What in the world? So, I mean, everything that you'd earned up until that point, a lot of people would say you just flushed it.
Yeah, no, I did. I did a hard reset. I really did. I honestly, I had put a lot of money in the 401k. The car had value, gone, just gone, because I was not going to be in a position to owe somebody money who, out of the kindness of his heart, had said, come join me in his existing business. And yes, I added value to the business, but it was an incredible opportunity to join him in his business and then have an income immediately versus earn it. So I wasn't going to, he was my mentor, he was my friend. I wasn't going to let that be and have this debt hanging out there and have him finance the company. Plus, I honestly didn't want him to have any kind of say in the company because we had already figured out we shouldn't work together. So I wanted to close that chapter as well. I just thought, I mean, I honestly thought I would have my dream car back in 4 years. I didn't.
Not if you only made $60,000 over the 4 years. So you go down this path, and I just appreciate your transparency here because in the world of social media, everybody's doing well all the time. There are no sacrifices, there are no bumps,
Right.
there are no losses. There are it's just always upward and onward, and there's no what I call the slingshot where you get pulled back a little bit, but then when it goes off, you just go to places you've never been able to imagine. So the wife comes in, and things start getting better. Do you think that's just a multiplier effect of her being around? Does she just make you a better person? Or is there something to be said for other people living in your household and you having to be responsible for providing for them?
So look, I will give my wife a tremendous amount of credit, but I'm still going to give myself some credit because I did the hard work on myself. I feel that you're not going to meet your soulmate and your spouse unless you're truly ready for that person. And I had done the work to make sure I was ready to meet her. In fact, 2 months before I met her, I finally said to myself, you know what? And I know this is going to sound arrogant, but I'm talking to myself. I said, I'm an amazing person and I deserve to meet and be with an amazing person. And no other options existed after that. And I met my wife, and she's an amazing person. So I give her a tremendous amount of credit, but I had to be ready for that. I had to do the effort and the work to be at that position in my life. And so, yeah, I've always wanted to marry my equal. And I don't mean she has the same capabilities as me. We have different skills. I want her to be equally engaged in the partnership of life so that we approach life really well together. And when we did eventually move in together, we sat down, and one of the first things we said to each other was, okay, what things around the house do you love and what things do you hate? Well, I hate vacuuming and toilets. She hates anything related to the car and trash. I'm like, well, this is easy. And she hates laundry. I'm like, I'll take laundry, cars, trash. She's like, I'll take care of cleaning, cooking, etc. And I was like, okay, nothing to fight about now. Zero. So it was like, we're partners in this. We're going to each do our thing. And it's not to say she wouldn't put gas in the car, and that's not to say I wouldn't cook, but it was to say we divided, and we thrived as a result of that. So yeah, there's something else to be said, Jerome, is that which is a lot of women in my life had said, Rich, I really support you in what you're doing. But those were just words. My wife actually did support me in what I was doing. She didn't make me feel bad in any kind of manner for working hard or working late. She would make my lunch for me just to make sure I was fed. And she'd make extra food to have leftover so it wasn't a thing I had to worry about. And then my health would improve because she did. She helped me improve my diet and therefore my health. She was doing these things that, especially on an emotional level, that helped me feel supported so that I could actually thrive at work. Whereas I dated girls who they, at one point, this girl I dated, I said, look, you are actually harming my business, so I'm not going to be with you anymore. This is why I'm breaking up with you. Can't make those choices. Don't make it an if this then or, you know,
Our partners, I think, are our most important choice, and so that's romantic in life. But then there's also the business partners. You've talked about the bad experience and the financial setback associated with that first partnership, and or yeah, it's the first partnership, and then the second partnership is like, okay, we got these things right. Did you have great division of labor in that relationship that dissolved, or was it kind of spaghetti?
in the with my mentor.
Yep.
I don't know that we had a clear definition of things. I mean, he was also very much into controlling everything. So much so he was trying to show me how to stamp envelopes. And he caught himself. He's like, why am I showing you how to do this? I'm like, I've done this 1,000 times. I don't know. He's like, yeah, this is just my thing. I have to feel like I have control. So I think a lot of it was personality conflict and butting heads. My mom and I are very complementary. My COO, who's a partner in the company today, he and I are yin and yang. We are like polar opposites on politics and things, but that doesn't matter. We see the business the same way. We're always on the same page. I don't care if we haven't talked for 2 weeks. We are always on the same page because we have the same concepts of what we're trying to achieve. I'm still the visionary, but he loves the vision. He doesn't have a problem with the division, and he adds to the vision because he's very good at seeing more versus creating. I'm good at creating. He's good at seeing how do I add value to that. So I think partnerships are really, really hard, but when you find the right people, they're perfect. They keep working. And don't get me wrong, it's not like we don't have disagreements. It's not like we don't have our moments, but we know each other so well now, and we know how to work with each other that it just works. It just keeps flourishing and thriving.
I love it because so many people will say, don't do partnerships because you're going to lose, it's going to fail, it's a mess. And I think there are instances where they work really well. I've been in partnerships that haven't worked. I've been in partnerships that do. And I think the thing that's most important is one, making sure you have the same values. Two, this division of labor keeps people from being offended because you're not stepping on each other's toes. And I mean, there's some other things that have been said throughout this episode that also I think are probably best practices for folks who are building things. And here's the thing, if you can build it by yourself, it's probably not big enough.
Hmm. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. With some exception to these influencers and digital marketers that outsource everything. I want to throw a third point to what you just said, which is ego. If you approach a partnership with your ego's better, bigger, stronger than the other partner, or it's all about you, or the other partner thinks it's all about them, that's not a partnership. That's competition in the workplace. And thankfully, one of our biggest things is check your ego at the door. It's not about who's right. It's not about who had the best idea. It's about how we solve problems for our customers. It's about having checks clear the bank so we can pay our payroll and keeping everybody happy. So this is one of the things I love about my partners. It's never about ego. And that I think is super, super important to making a strong partnership work. Because I've seen other partners fail simply because everybody thought they were right. Oh, I hate that battle.
Yeah. I The right thing and arguing to be right instead of arguing for the best answer is one of the things that I think is a detriment for a lot of relationships. So,
Yeah.
you talked about working late? Um, did you ever you talked about it's funny. You said your wife didn't give you a hard time about growing and working late, but then you said, well, you were only working 35 hours. So,
No, that's when I had my first son.
ah,
I worked 80-hour weeks for 12 years straight. And I thought harder you work, the more you get. Well, that turned out to be so false because when I had my first kid and I pushed myself to only work 35, maybe 40 hours in a week, I went through tons of guilt. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not accomplishing all these things. I went through identity crisis of like, I'm not working 80-hour weeks. What am I doing with my life? And what I realized was I was doing a lot of work that others should be doing, and I was doing a lot of work that was not necessary. You should not do everything that you think should be done. You need to focus on what moves the needle. And I heard this from a great coach. He said, think about a pilot in an airplane. And I'm not a pilot, so I don't really know all these details, but there's all these gauges, clusters of knobs and switches and who knows what, right? Hundreds of them. What really matters is probably five or six things like airspeed, direction, fuel, are you level or not? Where's the horizon? That kind of stuff. The rest of it's trim. And he says, think about your business that way. What is going to drive your business forward? And so when I cut back on my time so I could spend time raising my kid with my wife, I realized I've got to focus on what truly, truly matters in this business. And I mean, thankfully by then we had figured out that we need to say no to customers and only focus on really core aspects of our business. And we were in a growth spurt at that point too. We were growing at about 50% a year back then. So we were doing right things, and that catalyst of I'm going to cut back on my time just forced me to give to more people. And oh my gosh, I was then really truly empowering people to do their best work because I was letting them do the work. I wasn't holding their hand anymore. I wasn't micromanaging any of it. I was just like, I got to let them do it because I have no time. It has to get done. And I'll share this with you, Jerome. It's a funny thing I had to learn too, which is when you're the solopreneur mindset or you're the chief bottle wash and cooker, et cetera, whatever, when you're doing all these things, how many mistakes do you make? And when
wow.
you make all these mistakes, what happens? You figure it out and fix them, right? Do you fire yourself? Do you dock your pay? Do you berate yourself? Maybe, but do you actually have a yelling match in the mirror? No. Why would you ever do that to an employee who makes a mistake? Why wouldn't you let them have the same grace you gave yourself? And that's what I realized was like, I'm going to let them make the mistakes. It may hurt. It may hurt to watch them make the mistakes. It may slow us down. But man, when people make mistakes and they learn, you go twice as fast next time. And so that's one of the things I learned about delegation was let them make the mistakes, let them grow, let them have that space and watch things happen. And what happened was we got better and better as a company, as a team. The company culture started to take root and grow. And to this day, I mean, it's better and better every year.
Wow. Wow. So 80 hours a week for 12 years.
Yeah.
Did you burn out at any point?
I have gone through at least three different phases of burnout, three different times of burnout. One of the ones that was hardest was we went through a downturn in revenue. We lost 45% revenue in 1 year, like in 1 month. We lost our two biggest customers all at once. One completely just went out of business, and one had finished a 5-year contract and they just didn't need to keep going. They changed their model. Fine, I get it. But the big one is the one that went out of business, which sucked. 350 people lost their job and we lost this big revenue stream. So we had this massive downturn and we cut back to the bone, everything. We had to let people go, unfortunately. We had to cancel our water service, anything we could do to save pennies. And then we had to focus on how to keep customers loyal and happy and paying their bills. And then we had to figure out how to grow with no resources. So I felt like we had to reinvent our software. I knew what it was going to take technically, and I know what resources we had, which was next to nothing. And I calculated in my head that this would be a 4-year jail sentence of being able to just focus without growth, without change to get to where we needed to be. It was like walking through a desert, and we just did it. We said, we're going to keep customers happy. We're going to build partnerships. We're going to let others partners sell for us, which worked. But it took 2 years for the first partner to make revenue. And meanwhile, we're building our new technology because we knew we had to reinvent ourselves to get to where we wanted to be. We did it. It was super hard. And yeah, at those moments, I faced tremendous burnout of like, how do I keep going? Like, how do I keep doing this? That was a point in time we should have shut down the company. Probably should have shut it down 3 times. But I felt this responsibility to my customers and my partners, by the way, and my team to keep going because it was their paycheck. It was our partner's ability to do their work, our customer's ability to produce revenue. And I didn't want to give up on anybody because I felt like we had this beautiful model that was just sputtering. We just didn't have the fuel. So I walked the desert. We got to the other side and we started growing. And so that was from like 2010 to 2014. And the other catalyst in 2014, which was a year before my son was born, was we figured out how to say no to our customers and what we really did well. And we changed our messaging to say we only do 2 things and we do them really, really well. And that is what helped us start growing at 50% a year. Plus the partners kicked in revenue. And we had these like amazing moments of suddenly there's an extra $30,000 a month in revenue. Oh my gosh, life changing, right? A partner signed up 2 massive customers and the check started coming in. I mean, literally went from starving to we have money, enough money to pay off our debts and catch up and not worry so much and make payrolls without my partner and I would go 3 to 6 months without paychecks because we just ran out of money and we're like, we got to keep everybody else going. And then we try to catch up at the end of the year. So yeah, it was really hard, but that was one of those things I just kept saying, there's an end. We're going to get to it. We're going to be better for it. And we're going to have a much better product and company. And that's the truth. That's what we have.
I just want to kind of recap this for the listeners and make sure I got it. So I know you said 1999, but the official date was 2002 for starting it because that was the S
That's the
corp rule.
software.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's the 4 years where you make 50 or $60,000 combined, and then you start making some money, and then 4 years into that, go back and you're like, we are going to survive this until we can get to a breakthrough, but we're going to survive for another 4 years.
Yeah.
So literally, you go from 2002 to 2000 and am I good at math? Is that 12 or 14?
This is the 12 years of working 12-hour or 80-hour weeks. Yeah.
That's
12-hour
that's
days.
2014. It's 12 hours of barely getting paid, and it's
12 years. Yeah.
irregular at best.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
best.
The funny thing is, I meet my wife. I'm driving my 6-year-old. Well, actually, by this time, it's a 10-year-old truck with 100,000 miles on it. And it's clean and everything, but it's nothing special. She's driving a BMW. She's wearing Louboutin shoes. She's got a $1,000 dress on. And I'm like, I cannot afford this girl. And I honestly, like, we went on a Vegas trip at the end of the year for New Year's. I spent all of my snowboarding season money on that 2 day trip. Like, I couldn't snowboard for the whole season because I spent it all to go to Vegas with her for 2 days. That's how poor I was.
Well, or maybe wise because you made an investment
Wow.
that's paid off in multiple ways. So, did she know when you made that sacrifice that that's what you were giving up?
She didn't know exactly, but I wasn't like hiding from it. I was rather transparent. I said, look, I don't have a lot of excess funds to go play. She was also in school, which was fine. And I was working really hard. So we didn't have a need to go do something every night and spend money. And it turned out I had judged her wrong. She was actually a homebody who loved to just curl up and watch Netflix and have simple meals and things like that. So she didn't need to be wined and dined. She'd done all that. So yeah, it turned out to be really, really great. And she was very, very easygoing and accepting. And what's also ironic is that that was one of the first times that she went with a guy who was treating her well versus paying a lot of stuff for trips or whatever. And I was the guy who couldn't afford it, but I treated her exceptionally well. And that's what matters in the end. And she realized that, and she's like, I'd rather be with you. The money doesn't matter. And lo and behold, every year I've improved my salary since. So
Yeah, you just hold on. I'll show you that I can make the money too. I'm the complete package, baby. The total package is over here. All right. So,
oh, that's you complete the package. Let's do it together.
yeah. Yeah, man. That's so cool. So she's been on the journey with you. Could you imagine having done this without her, looking at what's happened since she's entered into your world?
No, it's night and day difference. Yeah. It's given me such empowerment and purpose beyond. And to be truthful, I had felt like I was destined to get married to my soulmate at some point in life. So I was building a company to have something for that. That was part of my reason for building a company. But when she came into the picture, it all became real and it manifested so much better. So no, I could never imagine my life without her. Couldn't imagine her not entering my life. There's no way. It's too important.
So let's go back. So you're 2014, you launched a new product and it works right out the gate, right? Everything that you thought was going to happen is perfect. Like you saw this 4 years before.
It took a year to sell that product. It took a year to get customers to say, yeah, I will adopt that product and implement it. So we brought it into market. Well, I mean, technically, yeah, I guess we launched it in 2013, and 2014 is when the dots started to connect. And that's why the revenue started to come in. Yeah. It was a hard thing, man. You think, oh, I'm going to build this product. Everybody's going to want it. First product, 6 users in year one. Nobody wanted it. Like, how do you do this then? And the next product, the reinvention of it, everybody should want it, but it just takes time for people to digest it and absorb it. I'm going through it again. I've got a new product out this year that everybody's like, that should sell itself. That is so obvious. You'd be dumb not to have it. And it's just taking time because my customers are enterprise scale customers with big budgets, with big teams and life cycles, et cetera, that they pay attention to. And they just take a year to figure it out and plan it and do it. So I have to be incredibly patient and persistent to make it happen and make sure I stay in front of them when they're ready to actually sign and implement. So yeah, that's one of the hardest things about this business. I love the stories of companies like Slack. They went to 100 million users in year one or something like that. I love that. That's a dream. But most people don't work that way. I'll share a story of somebody I knew. He started a carpet company, meaning installing carpet. And he was 18 or 19 years old when he did it. He went to 50 job sites, like brand new homes being constructed. And 49 of the first 50 all said, no, I don't need you. And number 50 said, yeah, let's get you a quote. Let's do it. And that's how he started. And he said, I went from 1 out of 50 to 1 out of 25 to 1 out of 10 to 1 out of 5. And now I get about 1 out of 3. And it was honing the skill. The work still has to be put in. And that's what I was learning. I talked to 10 customers, one says yes. I've talked to 10, I get 2. I talk to 10, I keep going. That this is what it is about building a business. You're building yourself, you're building your skills. So, you started by saying, I don't want to exit. And the truth is, I don't want to exit. And part of it is because I'm still learning, I'm still growing. And there are things that I want to accomplish at this company that make me not want to exit. And I also think about the purpose that you have. If you exit, so I was mentioning this to you privately that your book says, now there's silence after the applause or something to that effect. Like you did the exit and now there's this silence. What do you do with it? I am terrified of that vacuum. Like I like talking to my team. I like talking to my customers.
Mhm.
And so if I sold it for a pile of cash, I don't want to talk to my cash. I want to talk to my team. So the purpose you have in your life, where you derive fulfillment, is super important. And I derive fulfillment from empowering others to be their best version of themselves and empowering others to do their best work, which is the core of my company. So what would I do if I exit, Jerome?
A lot of good, but that's for another day, man. That's for another day. Somebody that's got the spirit and the heart and the stubbornness, I will say, that do, who's willing to persist. And I mean, with the stubbornness comes resilience. And I think if I had to pick a word to describe you, it's that. In spite of all of the comfort, in spite of all of the pomps and circumstance, and all, I'm super successful because I've got a job that pays me more money than probably my parents ever made combined. I'm going to give that up and I'm going to build something. And even though it doesn't look like it's working or feel like it's working, I'm going to keep working on it, and I'm barely going to pay myself. And we can keep going down the list of the things that you went through in order to get to the place where you are now.
Can I tell you
Which,
where I'm at now?
yeah,
I want to share something so that you can put a full perspective around this. Like, why did I work so hard? I want to tell you some of the outcomes. One of my outcomes is 99.3% of my revenue is recurring revenue. That's an amazing thing for a business to have. Like I make no more sales, 99.3% of my revenue will happen again next year. 91% of that revenue is on a 1 to 3 year contract with customers. And the other 8% is ancillary services they have to perform with their contract. So effectively, 99% of my revenue will keep going no matter what. Second, if anybody knows net promoter score, NPS, it's embarrassing to say this because it doesn't seem real. I'm waiting for a shoe to drop, but our score has been 100 out of 100 for 9 months straight now. To complement that, our customer satisfaction score, which is a survey we send out after somebody emails us for support or chat or whatever, last year was 84% on 10,000 interactions. In 2024, it's 100% every month. What? What? My team has never been more engaged, more productive, happier. Ask my team. They think this is the last company they ever want to work for. It's the last company I want to work for. So the outcome of all this effort is that we have built something I think really incredible and magical. And I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to give it up. That's the other thing. Like we have this amazing work environment. It's low stress. People are happy. They love to help our customers. Our customers love us. Like, what better thing is there?
a lot, but it's a beautiful space to be in. I Everything you said tells me to tell you to sell it. Sell it now. Take the check, carry some equity, because the next exit will be even bigger. But I would absolutely take money off the table with what you just laid out. But in the end, you're having fun, you're having impact, and those things are very difficult to come by when you're getting both at the same time. And so I'm super happy for you. You went through some seasons that were just absolutely, maybe they don't feel this way now, but they just sound absolutely unbearable. They sound like torture. And you were willing to go through that and continue to fight on and then build something that's bigger, better, I think, than you ever imagined. But Rich, I got to ask you, man, did you get your dream car back?
I have a different dream car. I didn't get that dream car back, but I have one of the dream cars in my driveway right now. And look, it's not a Lamborghini or anything. I have a lot of dream cars, but it is one of my dream cars, and I think I might keep it forever.
Okay. Everything in me wants to ask you what it is, but
Oh,
I
I'll tell
won't.
no, I'll tell you what it is. It's kind of funny. It's a Volvo XC90, which is the biggest SUV they make, but it is bright red. It's called the R Design package. It has the Polestar upgrade. It has the bucket leather seats. I mean, it is just an awesome car. To me, it is one of the prettiest cars on the road, and it's super unique. I have only seen one other one here in Austin, Texas. So it's very rare and unique. So that's why I love it.
And congratulations on making your dreams a reality, fighting through the struggle. Uh, I don't think did you call it a desert? That time where you were, yeah, I call it a desert. I
It
think most
was.
people walk out of the jungle. They think that they need the fruit and the water in the jungle, but they're going out into the desert to find their way to the promised land. And, a lot of people turn around. Some people die in the desert. Some people find the oasis and they get their water. You were talking about some of your trips that you're able to take on the journey, and then they continue. And it sounds to me like you've made it to the promised land where you found fulfillment, you found the ability to impact, you're getting paid extremely well for what you do. And you didn't say this part, and I really would appreciate you saying it, because I think hustle culture tells people that 80 hours a week is the way forever. But how many hours are you working now? You talked about 80, you talked about 35. How much are you working now?
35 or less. I mean, 2 years ago, I dropped it to 25. And then I decided to start a podcast, and that takes up more time. We also launched a new product, so that's taking up more time. But I chose to put more time in. But yeah, I don't think I work more than 35 hours a week now. I don't think I can.
I love it, man. So, Rich, one last question to wrap up the episode. What do you want the listeners to take away from this one? Because we've covered a ton of ground today.
I would say believe in yourself more than anything else. What you believe is going to be your reality. So believe in yourself and make your reality the best it can be. That's what I've decided to do. That's why I never gave up on crossing that desert and seeing the mirage manifest into an actual thing. So believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself. You are a dream catcher, man. Thank you so much for jumping on the episode with me today. I think you're going to help so many people, especially anybody that's out there in the desert and wondering whether or not they're going to make it to the other side.
Keep going. Thank you so much, Jerome. I really appreciate it.
And to my listeners, your dreams should be real. We'll catch you on the next episode.